Okay, Kartik Krishnaiyer, Daniel Feuerstein. We're doing a joint Feuerstein Fire Beyond the 90 wrap-up shows for the men's and women's U.S. National teams in the Olympics and the Paris Games. Today in Marseille, Daniel, the U.S. opened. It's on the men's side. We open on the women's side tomorrow. We're recording this Wednesday night. Lost 3-0 to the host France, who are one of the tournament favorites. There's a lot to unpack from this match, but I think just to get us started, I think Mitrovic had a clear tactical idea of what he wanted to do with this team. And I think it came off for most of the match, for probably the first 60 minutes. I mean, I felt really good about where we were, but then they're just individual concentration lapses. So let's talk about the first half first, Daniel. I mean, your thoughts.
I thought they played solid in the opening half. I really felt that the U.S. Were battling well with France. I really thought they were taking the pressure from France very well. But at the same time, France was also giving the U.S. some issues, when they had the ball. They couldn't, really, get a lot of chances in the opening half. But I thought they handled the pressure from the hosts excellent. I mean, look, everyone has to understand, this wasn't going to be a pretty match. This was not going to be run and gun. This was not going to be press, and, hoping you get something. This was, I thought, a solid opening 45. And they had to play the same way in the second half. Now, should they have been able to get a goal? Yes. Could they? No. And that's unfortunate because, they had glorious chances to get a goal. Unfortunately, it just couldn't materialize for them. And France just took advantage of, as you said, individual errors that gave them the 3-0 victory.
Yeah, and so I think one of the things in picking this squad that was stressed was that we're going to go with experience in our spine. We're not necessarily going to go for overage players and experience going forward because we think we have enough pieces in the attack to make a difference, which I would agree with. So you pick Walker Zimmerman, who I think had a good match. He's a guy I would continue to have in the full national team personally. I don't want to get in too deep into those debates, but you pick Mihalovic, who I think had, as he often does, a very good game, and then you pick Miles Robinson, and that's kind of where I want to start because I don't think you can have an overage player have the concentration lapses and make the mental mistakes and the let-offs that he had. I think that was a big part of what happened in the second half. Now, in the first half, I felt like we were really in the game. Tolkien, he took a little a knock, but he kept going. Harry L. was good. I thought Tanner Tessman was particularly good. Paredes, who's a player I saw a lot of at Loudoun United in the USL Championship before he moved to Germany. I thought all these guys were solid. We were creating chances. We didn't give up a clear-cut chance for about 30 minutes in that first half. But then, I have to get back to then what happened after halftime. And you don't want to point the finger at one guy specifically in this setup, but I do think Mitrovic is going to think, hey, we should have gotten more from Miles Robinson. I mean, this was kind of a shocking performance from him.
Absolutely agree with you, and it's a shame to say it because look, we know Miles Robinson was always a very good center back. You cannot say nothing bad about him. He got the game winner against Mexico in the CONCACAF Gold Cup several years ago, I think back in 2001 final, and unfortunately, I thought him and Busio. And I don't want to talk negative about him. He's done well with Venezia in Italy. They're back in Serie A for next season in the promotion. But I thought that on the opening goal by France, both him, Miles Robinson, and Gianluca Busio just gave no pressure to Lacazette. and allowed him to have that space to just say, you know what, you're going to give me this space, watch what I do. And he did. He scored. I also thought Schulte, who also played a very good game in net for the U.S., I thought he was screened on that one by his center back and by Busio as well. So,
Yeah, it was funny because before the match, I was recollecting to someone at Miami FC doing my technical stuff over there, that my last memory. I mean, Michael Orozco got sent off right in the first few minutes against Nigeria in 2008, but my enduring memory of the 2008 Olympic men's tournament was. It was either Stu Holden or Sasha Kleiston jumping in the wall and letting the ball go under him. And Brad Guzan got blamed for that goal by a lot of people, but Guzan didn't see the ball, right? He didn't see it until it was too late. And Roy Mackay had put it under and in, and that's how we got eliminated, right? We had that match won. It was the last. That's still one of the bitter memories of being of U.S. soccer was the way that match ended. This was similar, right? Schulte didn't see Lacazette. He was screening. He didn't see Lacazette launch it, and he reacted late, but that was because he was screened. You can't let off guys like Lacazette and Alesi, who are fantastic players at the top level in Europe, and Alesi has obviously moved on to Bayern, but he's been just phenomenal at Crystal Palace. And unfortunately for me in Premier League fantasy, I don't have him to draft this year. Maybe I need to play the Bundesliga game to sign him. But that was a concern. And then I think Paxton Aronson. I mean, the whole right side was kind of weak, other than Harriel, right? I think Paxton Aronson had a poor match. I feel like Busio was very poor. I would say maybe of our field players, those were the three worst guys: Robinson, Busio, Aronson. I know there are people saying after the match that they felt like Duncan Maguire was ineffectual, but he was on an island when we were defending with two banks of four, right? And then
exactly,
and then you weren't able to link up with him. So I kind of give him a pass. Griffin Yao, a player that I watched a lot of when he was in USL Championship at Loudoun. He came on. I think he gives you something a little different than Maguire up top. But I still think that going forward in this tournament, Maguire has got to be your choice as a 9, and Yao is a guy you bring off the bench.
No, I definitely agree with you there. Look, Duncan Maguire has the spark. He's got the spunk. I thought he was trying. I will admit, at times maybe he tried to take on that strong French defense, and he just couldn't break through. But when he was like 1-on-1, then he had his moments. But other than that, 2-3 defenders on him, no, he needed help, and he never got it, unfortunately. And I think that was the one issue I saw in the attack. I thought the link-up play was decent in like the second, third of the pitch, but that final third, they just faltered too easily, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I think maybe that last ball was lacking. Although Restis had a fantastic game for France in nets, and we still had chances, right? We still created chances, and particularly. This is what was interesting, particularly in the second half, once France got the opening goal from Lacazette, we were playing with the ball a lot. And yes. For about 15 minutes there, Mihalovic was very influential. He was running the match. Tanner Tessman was playing very well at that point. I think once we made the substitutions, Max Dietz was fairly good, but the rest of our substitutions didn't have an impact on the match. And Taylor Booth, I thought, was particularly poor after coming on. But
I agree with you. But I will say this, though. New York Red Bulls left-sided fullback John Tolkien. I don't know. It looked like there was a save made by Restis, but then there's a replay showing he might have hit the post.
Yeah, he hit the he hit the post. He hit the post.
He hit the post.
Yeah.
That opportunity by John Tolkien, if that goes in, it's a whole different game.
Yeah,
a whole different game.
Well, we hit Woodwork twice, right? Before they had gotten maybe the second chance was after the opening goal. Okay, yeah. So Tolkien's chance was before, but yeah, we certainly we hit the post twice. We still forced Restus to make 3 saves. So I think it was all in all a fairly good performance. The scoreline is troubling. But it won't make a difference if you win these next 2 matches. The goal difference is not a factor. It is a factor if we don't beat New Zealand on Saturday. So it's a quick turnaround, and this is where I think you have to start rotating the squad, which is something I'm a little concerned about on the women's side. We'll see how Emma Hayes sets up, knowing that you have your weakest opponent first, and then you've got on the women's side Germany and Australia, 2 really difficult matches back to back. Maybe she goes with a weaker squad tomorrow. But for the men, I think what you do is you maybe go with the same 11 against New Zealand with the hope you can rotate. Significantly rotate. Maybe start Booth on the right side. Maybe you play Yao up top or somebody else. I think maybe Caleb Wiley has a role to play in the in the next match, and certainly in the final match of the group stage. But the thing that makes the Olympic football tournament so much more difficult, and as I said, we haven't been in it on the men's side since that fateful 2008 Michael Orozco red card, but that I've learned from our team on the women's side. Because I'll admit this, Daniel, I don't really watch the Olympics other than soccer and a little bit of golf. Cricket will be in it in a few years, so I'll watch the cricket tournament. But I really it's just another major soccer tournament for me is what it is. But the turnarounds are much tighter because it's a 2-week tournament or 2.5-week tournament as opposed to the 4-week tournaments that you have with the Euros and the World Cups and the Copa Americas. So it's much tighter. So the thing that I think we saw and we learned really from the failures in 16 and 20 in the Olympics, while we won the World Cup on the women's side with the same teams in 15 and 19, was that the tighter squad, the 18-woman squad, makes it much more difficult with the quick turnaround. So, and I don't think Jill Ellis managed her squad particularly well in 16, by the way. So that was a blip in the middle of 2 World Cup victories. So we're not allowed to talk about it supposedly, but we did poorly in that tournament. And then obviously we know what happened in the Tokyo Olympics under Vlatko, and the assumption was we should just go ahead with him, and we saw what it resulted in. But I think. Mitrovic knows this, which is why he's picked the squad he's picked, right? He's gone pretty heavy in terms of some of the guys that can play multiple positions. So you have players that can potentially, if you want to play differently, play in different roles on the attacking end. That's the important part of this. But on the defensive end, Daniel, you're going with a Zimmerman-Robinson partnership at center back, the entire tournament. And do we just chalk this up to being a stinker for Miles Robinson because he's a player of significant pedigree, or did we potentially make a mistake with one of the overage selections? I mean, he's having a decent year for Cincinnati. I would argue his last couple seasons in Atlanta, he had dropped off. Certainly not at the level he was at in 2020 or 2021, but I felt he had made a good case thus far in the MLS season to be on this side. But boy, I mean, he was, I would say, I know we've talked about Aronson and Busio also, and they contributed to what happened in the second half today. But I would say by some distance, Robinson was the worst player on either team. And quite frankly, probably the worst player I saw watching multiple men's matches today in the Olympics.
I will say this, for now, and I'm going to be honest with you, for now, I'm going to call it a stinker. I'm just going to call it a stinker for now. But if he shows the same type of stinkiness against New Zealand, then I'm going to say he should have been picked as an overage player.
Yeah. So it was controversial to go with two center backs, but I understood the thinking. And you play Mihalovic, you play him as a 10, right? Or you play him as an 8, and then so you have a spine. And you expect Busio and Tessman, who are two of your better underage players, or U23 players, to shield the back four. You've got two solid center backs, and then you've got Jorda in front of them, right? Linking with whoever your striker is. In the case of today, it was Duncan Maguire. So I think that was the tactic. I do, however, think a case can be made that Mitrovic, looking at the tournament, picked Robinson with this match in mind, specifically. And if that's the case, that was a wasted pick.
I agree.
And unfortunately, you're stuck with it for the rest of the tournament. So as I said, this is not the World Cup or the Euros where you have 26-man squads. You have an 18-man squad, and then women's side, same thing, 18 women. So you don't have a lot of options to swap them out. So okay, we will obviously be back for the New Zealand match, and then the women Germany match. We're not going to do a post game after tomorrow's women's game. I mean, maybe this is the height of arrogance. You can call it that, but I'm expecting basically a walkover. I'm not expecting a walkover in this tournament. I mean, I'm thinking Germany and Australia are going to be very tough. I just want to get out of the group, and then we can talk gold medal and all of that.
Exactly.
But tomorrow is the easy part, in my opinion. So we'll be back Saturday. We're going to do Sunday. We're going to do next week as well. Unfortunately, Daniel, maybe explain to the listeners what's happened with Blog Talk Radio and why we're doing these shows here instead.
Well, it's really simple because Blog Talk Radio has once again screwed me over. I guess I can say that. Once again, more issues. First was connection issues with the switchboard. Now it's apparently maintenance popped up, and then a gateway error popped up again. So I'm just having a peachy keen time with my live streaming service people. So, you know what? But still, I'd rather do it with you anyway, and I don't mind doing it here at Blog Talk Radio. I mean, not Blog Talk Radio, Beyond the 90.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Daniel. And should mention, Daniel and Feuerstein's Fire is the official show of NPSL. Columbus United, as a first-year club, has now won 2 trophies on the road in NPSL. So keep an eye on the NPSL playoffs. I was just texting back and forth with Michael Hitchcock, the great Michael Hitchcock, former FC Dallas president, who now helps operate several teams at the lower division level. FC Columbus is one of his clubs, and they're cooking now. They're looking like they might be able to win the whole thing. So that's something when Blog Talk Radio is back up and running, maybe we talk about, or perhaps that becomes a Beyond the 90 story also. Let's talk NPSL on Beyond the 90. Anyway.
Absolutely.
Daniel, thank you. And we will be back with you Saturday, New Zealand. Right, Saturday.
That's right, New Zealand.
Yep. Thanks.
Great. Thank you.